let's call him Pat.
It's time for androgyny. Here comes Pat.
Hello friends, and welcome back to ReddX, your source for the freshest daily cringe content anywhere on the internet. Promise swearsies, it's just a fact, and it's totally science. Go ahead and look it up. Today we're diving into r/RPG/horror-stories. Yes, indeed. Doing a second upload today because I'm feeling a little bit froggy. I want to see what we can get into. I don't want to neglect my RPG fans out there. And I know there are quite a lot of them that have been drawn to this channel, either through Den of the Drake or Crit Crab or whatever the hell else. I know there's lots of people waiting for these RPG horror stories, so I pulled up a couple today. Seems like they might be good ones. They are rather long, so hopefully that doesn't turn into the OP just waxing poetic for 10 minutes at a time. Because, you know, the waxing poetic, that's my job. That's the part that I want to do. Hopefully it'll provide some cringe. I'm never sure what to expect when I come into RPG horror stories. If you guys have good stories from this subreddit that you want to hear me read, go ahead and cross-post them to my personal subreddit r/ReddXreads, and I will get around to them eventually. I definitely do appreciate the help, and as always, I hope that you guys will enjoy the stories. So, let's get some plugs and disclaimers out of the way, and then we will dive right into some r/RPG horror stories cringe. The one mandatory role to invalidate the working class. Wait, hold on. Can they do that? Please don't do that. So a few nights back, me and my friend group had played another session of the long-running campaign that we've grown a ritual for. Partially homebrew, but with canon Forgotten Realms elements. We've been playing this thing for about a year, and all of our characters have amassed pages of just lore and key moments that defined our characters and what they do. For clarification of my events, my character is a human who's been fused with the exterior of a warforged. They grew up on the Swords Coast and are an arcane trickster rogue whose main goal is evening the playing field in Waterdeep, given how imbalanced the power has grown between the everyman and the royal heirs. We've canonically gotten past the Waterdeep Dragon Heist module regarding the whole vault plot point, but our DM has given a full expansion of the socio-political state of Waterdeep, so the vault feels less like a big reward or just one moral quandary. But it will be something that we will see the effects of sessions afterwards, as it's our world that our characters will be living in, given that they unearthed the 500,000 gold and more from the vault, which was a spoiler, so sorry if you haven't played Waterdeep Dragon Heist, which we had opted to give to a small organized group that we made to attempt to try and stimulate a growth within the poorer regions of Waterdeep, while also having a contingency in case things got a bit hairy. This is all important as subtext for the session that we just had. Including the character description? No, that's good. Go off, OP. I'm still with you. So we started ourselves off after a combat encounter that we had with a couple of goons that were strays from Xanathar's guild. This leads us to the docks near a criminal organization we knew, but we also had a decent connection with them. So we go down into their territory and we all meet up. We see associates that we had met with before, and this all ties back to some stuff from our prior sessions. At this point, communications are quite cordial, and things seem chill. We're going around the hideout until we see two of the NPCs playing a simple dice game. I join in for the fun of it, along with two other PCs. I managed to get 2 perfect rolls, and pulled the pot with over 400 plus gold and called it quits. I had no interest in playing further, and it was all in good fun. Little did any of us know, the Dungeon Master wasn't satisfied with quitsies. Him and his friend, who is also in this session, got done binging the entirety of the fucking Pirates of the Caribbean series. Why is it fucking... That's a pretty good series. Don't do that, OP. I enjoy adventures on the high seas, okay? This resulted in the entire gang and our party being rounded up into one room where the DM basically shoved aside any obstacles or means of deception or cheating through spells, and the leader of the organization insisted that we play liar's dice. We were all quite lukewarm to the idea, other than one of us who was ecstatic. Now, with this in mind, the way that our dungeon master thought was a logical way to incentivize us playing was him giving us a clear motive: competition. This wasn't by setting up any challenge, information, or even a new lore beat. He just chose our magic items at random and had the leader basically say to the group, "You have to bet that and play at least one round, and in compensation, I'll give you this coin as a means of summoning us and a sign of respect." Well, that's railroading and bullshit, and I don't want to play. For realsy reals. Out of all the magic items he picked, he chose literally the clothes that my character was wearing, which was a magic item tied to my spellcasting. It had enough for it to qualify as a legendary magic item, so given crafting and magic item tier pieces, it had landed about 500,000 gold. My character is completely against betting and gambling most of the time, unless it's an actually harmless amount that they deem being bet, because they often want cold hard percentages, and not to meddle with odds when they don't have to, and would rather opt into being charitable with their goods rather than wasteful through gambling. So this entire situation was completely against my character's personality, as I was the instigator for us using the rewards from the Waterdeep Dragon arc to give to the public. And yet, I didn't feel I had the place to initiate combat, because the leader in question just had a whole arc tied to the Castle Lanters, and I wouldn't want to ruin reputations over something like that, so I just played along, with a lack of interest in it, and I watched as the other players were handing over stuff that was barely over 200 gold. Oh boy, you are being targeted for sure. The DM then used the organization's leader and henchmen to set our sitting formation for liar's dice in such a way where the only person who could benefit from calling out bluffs and bluffing really was the PC that marathon Pirates of the Caribbean with the Dungeon Master, his friend. This was because he did a weird modified version of a pot where the winner didn't actually get the goods on the table, but they'd get whatever they bet against the other person. Okay? Getting a little lost now. It's like White Elephant, but with dice or something. So realistically, this just extended the length of the game to the better half of 4 hours. Oh, God. Nope, can't do it. I'm fucking out. I called myself out by round 2, after, for the second round, I just handed over the spellbook of a player character that we had booted out long ago, due to them being a problem player, and their subclass was tied to chronergy. Now, I did this bet because I didn't think that I could just write down another subclass's spells when I'm already another subclass of wizard, and on top of that, other than the few spells there, it'd have all the same exact spells due to us having the same base class listings. I didn't think that this would be important, but apparently it was. Because after this prolonged dice game was finally fucking over, the Dungeon Master had the nerve to take one of the faction leaders we brought along and have them go on this thing about, "What you did there was stupid. This world doesn't take well to the school of magic that you and your late friend practiced. Maybe you should think more before pawning off such powerful things like that." Even though the person that would win the spellbook in the end was a mutual ally of ours and not just some stranger as it was being framed. Luckily, the session didn't last much longer after that, as half of our party was just fatigued from how lackluster the entire thing was. But I can't help but be really irritated that I was made to defy my character in a forced round of something that none of us had interest in. And then I got lambasted by an NPC for betting a spellbook, even though I already have one, and they just disregard the 500,000 bet that I was forced to put down. Boy, I tell you, I would have left that session quick, fast, in a hurry. Like, okay, this isn't something that my character would do and you're gonna force me into it. Well, guess what? I'm gonna walk away. Kill my character if you need to. I'm not gonna be missing out on anything because honestly, this DM is just crap, man. Railroading his players into a gambling scenario and then doing that shit for 4 hours. Ugh, everybody at the end's just completely tired. Probably feels like they wasted a large chunk of their life. And they did. All at the behest of this weird DM who either loves gambling or hates his players or didn't have any better ideas. I have no idea what his thought process was going into this. Probably saw OP making a little gamble and he's like, oh, this is a plot point now. Please, don't ever do this. And if you're a player, don't ever let the DM get away with this. It's okay to walk away, as you probably should have done, OP, but I applaud you for sticking it through. Unfortunately, you'll never get that chunk of your life back. Anyways, let's jump on into another story. DM/player thinks the game is all about himself. I'm the hero. Okay. I've been playing D&D with the same group of friends for nearly 3 years now. We've lost and added a person here and there, but the group has mostly been the same for the majority of the time that we've been playing. It started with one of the friends, let's call him Pat, offering to create a campaign for us to play in so we could give it a shot. We all thoroughly enjoyed it, and now, nearly 3 years later, we are still playing that same campaign, but with very different feelings than when we first started. Ominous. That campaign was the beginning of a long road for all of us, and the one that created our first ever D&D characters. We rolled stats one night, came up with some vague backstories, and were launched into a world that we knew nothing about. I would say that the journey we went on from level 1 to level 7 was just about the most fun that we ever had in that campaign. Even up to level 9, we were still doing things that we thoroughly enjoyed, and had fun playing the game together. During that time, though, we began to notice that Pat had a little bit of a god complex. The world that we had initially been told he created himself was slowly turning into a weird amalgamation of various different pieces of media. For the most part, no one really cared about this too much because the game was still fun, but slowly, this conglomeration began to noticeably only reward 3 of the players at the table. 2 friends that I'll refer to as Mark and Steve, and myself. At this point, Mark and I had both learned slightly more about the incredible variety of content that D&D had to offer, including a well-known show called Critical Role. And it was during this time that we began to notice more story elements that we had been through mirroring those of outside media. It had gone just from the world we were in to actual manipulation of the story to mimic something that we didn't quite know. What began to irk me, though, was just how similar my character's arc was beginning to look to Fjord's from Critical Role. I was playing a paladin of Heimdall who had been gifted a cursed sword that instead put him in the hands of Asmodeus, who wanted him to follow his bidding, very similar to how Yucatoa works with Fjord. Later, my character would deny Asmodeus, who in retaliation killed Heimdall, leaving me a paladin with no powers and no god. It seems like being gifted a cursed sword was actually, gasp, a curse. I'm just razzing you, OP. That does suck. The DM has essentially just destroyed this player character. Yeah, just like that. Something that I had built my entire character around was shattered and tossed away like it didn't even matter. And before anyone says anything, yes, I know paladins are supposed to get their powers from their oath, not their god, but in the words of Pat, that's not how it works in my campaign. Immediately, my character was offered a token that would grant him his powers, but from a deity that he didn't know. Uh-oh. More than that, the morals that he had built his life upon, protecting others and upholding justice, were now replaced with a very questionable oath. that could ask him to turn to evil just to uphold the sacred balance. Yeah, I felt cheated, and as though my character was no longer my own. But it was this moment that really helped me see everything that everyone else had been through too, up to that point. My character was one of the last that had been changed. I guess I had just been too stubborn, but none of us had the same character that we started out with. Hence, I guess why you're having less fun. I don't mean that in a they died and had to be replaced kind of way either. It was still our character, but Pat had just modified each of them to fit what he wanted to see in the game, not what we wanted from our characters. More railroading. Choo-choo! Everywhere you look. Choo-choo! On top of blatantly changing our characters without even checking with us first, Pat had slowly been building us up to be champions of the gods in this world, eerily similar to the way Vox Machina gathered the vestiges of Divergence and became champions in their own rights in Campaign 1. Pat had designed it so that in order to win and beat the big bad guys, we had to become champions of the gods and collect special weapons that previous champions held in order to give us enough of a power boost that we might have a chance of defeating the bad guys. And notice I say chance. Tell you what, Pat, here's my fucking character sheet. You play it. Do whatever you want. I'm out. The other aspect of all of this is that our characters don't even feel that powerful. We're constantly being beaten, barely surviving encounters because we get saved by some more powerful being, or because we barely manage to escape. Regardless, none of the feats are our own, and our clever tricks are often overruled by Pat saying, "I'm the DM. Whatever I say goes." At, and even slightly before 11th level, villains we've come across had 30 strength, 5 legendary actions, the Sentinel feat to try and prevent us from fleeing, even having up to 2 9th level spell slots, and even a 10th level one. The game no longer felt like something that we were able to win, but a scenario of the party versus Pat, where Pat makes all the rules. God, man, I just don't understand what keeps people going. I guess it's like the camaraderie with the other friends at the table, but yeah, what a hateful DM. The past 3 months of the campaign have been almost strictly railroaded as well. We were thrown into the Nine Hells and instructed to help free Levistus from the 5th layer, and given a compass that tells us exactly where we need to go. It's all so bad that it's been hard to even convince half of the group to continue playing. To try and give us a break, I offered to start a campaign of my own, but Pat is almost as bad of a player as he is a dungeon master. That doesn't surprise me. The character Pat brought to me is a blatant ripoff of Percy and Caleb from Critical Role. If you took the appearance and personality of Caleb and combined it with the class and backstory of Percy, you would have a near perfect replica of his character. When suggesting ideas for where I could take his story, he told me that he didn't want it to be too similar to Percy's story. I don't even have the room to make it different, honestly. Take that and add on to the fact that he's tried to pressure me into letting the party level up one session after their last level up, and when no one else wanted to. The rules that he constantly argues with me on, despite taking no criticisms or suggestions in his own game, or the fact that he continuously creates discord among the rest of the party, and then gets mad when the story doesn't move forward. Even getting mad at me for letting a different player have a moment that was pivotal to their character arc. Ugh, he's the star. Pat's the star. It has reached a boiling point where I don't even want to invite him back to my table, or play in any of his games ever again. Then don't. Hey, here's a simple solution. Don't. My point in all of this is that D&D is a collaborative storytelling game where everyone gets a say in how it's played, not just one person. The game shouldn't mirror a live stream played by professional voice actors just because one person wants their game to be like that. I think, overall, Critical Role has had a positive effect on the way that D&D is played. But in this scenario, the opposite is true. The game is about creating fun, not replicating it. And the DM should never try to win or force the players to do something just because it's the only way their story will work. I mean, the dude has obviously learned nothing from the way that Matt Mercer DMs a game. He leaves things pretty open-ended. I think Critical Role can be a pretty good time, but I think that the voices are only like 5% of what makes Matt Mercer a good DM. The other 95% is like, look at him while other players are talking. He's absorbing, listening, making notes, seeing what they want out of their character and laying out a path to get there. This DM is just like, oh, we're going to copy everything that happens in the show. Like, how about a little bit of originality? Your players want to guide themselves and feel like they're in control of the adventure, not some invisible hand who just keeps saying, nope, you don't do that. Like, fuck you, bro. Like I said before, throw the character sheet at him. Tell him to fucking do it himself. You want to play with yourself? So be it. Fucking jerk off. That's a double entendre. Dude doesn't even really seem to be like a good or interesting friend, so I'm not sure why, you invited him to the new group. Just rip the band-aid off. Get him out of there so people can start having fun again, because D&D takes up a lot of time. And if you're not having fun with that time, then really, what's the fucking point? There is none. You need to stick with what makes the game enjoyable for you. And if not having Pat involved is that thing, so be it. Sorry, Pat. Maybe you can find something on Roll20 with a bunch of other metagaming tryhards. No, I'm not shitting on Roll20. I'm just shitting on Pat in particular. But yeah, that's all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed the episode, friends. I hope you like, comment, and or subscribe if you did. Maybe share it around if you should like. I would really, honestly, quite truly appreciate that. Also, check out them links in the descriptions, all kinds of stuff, playlists and plugs and social medias, Twitter, Discord, Facebook, you know what to do. Also, my gorgeous, wonderful, beautiful, generous patrons. Yes, indeed. I'd like to thank them all as I do every video, so thank you very much. Calvicus, Fatboy Shrimp, Robert Waits, TSM Kirby, Aaron W, Twisted Child, Delicious Jelly Donut, Candy Sora, Fire Drake, Liverson, Mr. Anime Manga Fan, Silent Revolver, Zero MX, Magdalene Marshall Thornrose, Little Lone Wolf, Vanilla Mel, Rouse Tower, Satori, Babsy-kun, Caustic Fox, Disposable Waifu, Aaron Lennox, Fisher Diggy, Hadrian BR, Heathcliff, OG James Cook, a pimp named Jay Crisp, JM Coon, Jerry, John Hero, Miss Monday, Lord Lion-O, Jackets Rule, Melgar the Destroyer, Mirthful Baker, Mr. J, my boy Nat One Nick, Lady Nix, Orgame Steve, Katykins, Elizabeth, Sidestep, Cider Drinker, Serrated Ash, Siegfried, Synaptic Boomstick, Brilliant Tamago, Tato Ferret, Teddy the Police, 10-Ton Monster, That Duck and Bug, The One True Fusky, Treeberg, Wilmax, Redwin, Goose Says Honk, Leon Embers, Naga Viper, John Indoors, A Normal Joe, Amara, A Roxers, Cake, Jerry, that's a different Jerry. It's not even going to be words at some point. Cinnamon Bunny Dog, KJW, Kajow, Crafty Kitty Cat, Little Ann Woods, Mark 211, maybe next time, Milk-Fed Gimp, Miss Duchess, Orgame Cam, Princess Rosalie, Ghosty, Raptor Art, Steampunk Ellie, The Last Shinobi, and the Necrobomicon. Thank you guys so very much for doing what you do, showing love to the channel. I hope some other people will consider joining up on the Patreon, but if you can't do it right now, don't sweat it too hard, friends. I just appreciate you coming on through, hanging out with me, and I hope you'll come back and hang out with me again tomorrow. In order to do so, you need to keep yourself safe out there. Wash your hands, but also take some time out and do something that you personally enjoy today. Maybe, watching some more ReddX videos? Yeah. Always remember, friends, that you are loved, you are worthy, and you definitely deserve it. I shall see you in the next one, and until then, friends, bye-bye.